Bees have unlocked meat honey. Lock all the way in for this one.
Bees, bees, bees. They are just about one of the only winged insects in the animal kingdom that exists.
What do you use for multi? I use OBS, and I have Atom installed. It's called like Atom Multi-Stream. I could help you get some of that stuff set up, man, if that's something that you're interested in.
Can sting you, but that people actually tolerate, for the most part. And in fact, many of us love bees, as they're not only kind of adorable, but they're also just about one of the most important animals out there when it comes.
I love carpenter bees. You know those ones that like sit there and they kind of hover or whatever? I love carpenter bees. I know a lot of people like hate them and they get on their nerves and whatnot and blah, blah, blah. But like, if you come across like a bunch of carpenter bees, dude, they're kind of hilarious, man. Cause like they'll hang out there and then like once they see another one coming, they'll just headbutt the shit out of him, dude. Knock him out. Or like with wasp, they'll like headbutt wasp and shit. Yeah, most def. How much does it run you? It's free. They make excellent tennis balls. Come on. That's terrible, dude. I love carpenter bees.
Comes to our own well-being. As long as you're not allergic, that is. And this is primarily because they pollinate over a third of the world's entire food crops. And their actions contribute to about $160 billion annually for global agriculture. And without them, it's believed that many, many people would die, and civilization would take a good beating. So I would say that's a pretty good reason alone to love them. And like I said, it also helps that some of them actually look kind of cute. For a bug, that is. Which is probably best exemplified by the mascot of all bees.
WBs for everything that they do. I'm kind of like one of them weird people that finds like being a softie towards like bees. I don't know what it is, man. Sorry, what was the plugin called again? Atom Multi-Stream. It's not spelt the way like it sounds. It's like AITUM Multi-Stream.
Bumblebee, a fuzzy little group of over 250 different species that in many cases bear a pretty cool pattern and is one of the most recognizable insects out there, even having their own animated movie dedicated to them. However, bumblebees have lied to you. In fact, all bees have lied. Because while most people believe that
you have a feeling that the dude on Twitch is a Terminator? What's the name? Not only that, but hopefully not. But if he is, homie is locked in right now watching an ad because he's just waiting to be able to just send out that damn thing. But I don't know if there's as many Terminators on Twitch, though, as there is on Kick. Because Kick's a fairly new platform, so they're still, like, cleaning that out and get rid of it. Maybe. I don't know.
Bees equal good and wholesome, that doesn't actually apply to all of them. After all, the word bee itself isn't just one large genus. It's any of the winged species that belong to the clade known as Anthophyla. And in total, this extends to over 20,000 known species, with just 2 of them being the ones responsible for pollinating over 80% of crops. So talk about carrying the team. And now, this isn't to say that the other 98% are just bad cookies, but a few of them kind of are. And there's actually a handful of bees out there that don't just follow their own rules, but are the exact opposite of what you'd expect from relatives of bumblebees, operating more like animals you'd expect to see in some sort of horror movie. And one of the most prominent examples of this has something to do with a type of bee that is responsible for a substance often referred to as meat honey. Yes, that is first name meat, last name honey. But before I can dive into that, I need to first introduce you to its creator, the vulture
That looked goddamn disgusting.
bees. In remote parts of South America, within rainforests and jungles, you will find this group, a small band of 3 very closely related species of bees that all belong to the genus known as Trigona, with the species specifically being Trigona crassipes, Necrophagia, and Hypogea. And on the surface, these 3 species are pretty standard Trigona bees, being quite small, between 8 and 22 millimeters long, brown in color, and thankfully stingless. And you'll mostly find them in the same kind of environments as their relatives too, which is to say, areas that are warmer, dark, and moist. And in their case, this usually is tree hollows, abandoned termite nests, or even underground, where they set up hives with similar hierarchical structures to that of normal bees, with there being a queen, worker, drone, and finally the larva. But past this point, the similarities abruptly end, and things start getting a bit more unsettling, especially once it becomes time for supper in their hives. Now, most Trigona bees are rather ordinary, feasting on pollen and nectar from over 500 different plant species, just like many other bees do. So pretty standard. But these 3 species, on the other hand, they have no interest in the usual goods. And if you took a good look at one of the species names, the Necrophagia, you may already have an idea of what they prefer to chow down on, and that would be flesh. Yes, meat-eating bees is a real thing, and has actually been a thing for longer than scientists first thought, as despite being aware of these 3 species' existence for hundreds of years, it was only in the 1980s that the researchers realized that these bees were gobbling up meat, not plant matter. Although, we aren't talking about just any kind of meat. No, this meat would be rotting flesh. Yummy. and this is also why they are commonly nicknamed the vulture bees. So basically, if you put a fresh sirloin in front of one of these guys, you're gonna get a no thank you. But a decaying corpse? Then it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. An observation on these bees find that often how they like to chow down is by tunneling straight through the carcass's eyes, giving them behind-the-scenes access to Meatopia. Additionally, like many flies, vulture bees accomplish the feat of actually ingesting the rotting flesh by vomiting up saliva that is chock full of specialized digestive enzymes.
I'll be honest with y'all, this freaks me the fuck out to know that there's bees out there that if I were to die around them, they would eat my goddamn eyeballs out of my head, tunnel into my brain, and eat my innards. That is a horrifying thought.
Which then help break down the decomposing flesh into a delicious homemade soup that can be then slurped down. And in many cases, the feeding process only gets more nauseating from here on out, if that's even possible. As if the vulture bee in question is a forager, they don't just let this masticated goop hit their stomachs quite yet, as after all, it'd be quite rude not to share it with their friends and family, which technically all their friends are family, but you get the point. So what these bees instead do is store this meat slime within their crops, which is the simple name for a thin-walled portion of their alimentary tract, where the goop can then comfortably sit without being further digested. After that, the goods are then transported back to their hives, where they then invoke their professional-level vomiting skills, by regurgitating not saliva this time, but instead the mashed up meat goo, which is then neatly stored into various pots embedded within the hive. And so by now, you should probably be feeling a bit queasy. And if you aren't, don't worry, because the vulture bees still have a few more tricks up their sleeves, or rather wings. You see, once this concoction is safely within their storage pots, it will sit there to age, and then over time be consumed by the other bees in the hive, specifically the worker bees who—
Appetizing? Yeah, yummy. Is this where potted meat comes from? I've got about 150 mice in my freezer. I will give as a peace offering. 150 mice? Why do you have mice in your freezer? I just want to say, Mike, we are at 100 followers. No, on Kick? We finally hit it? Snakes. Oh, god damn, you got snakes. Alrighty. What? Dude, I'm gonna be honest with you. When I first started the journey over here, I didn't know necessarily if that was gonna happen, but because it's happened, I just want to say thank you all very much, because all of you are the reason why it's happened, and you all mean a great deal to me, and I hope that you truly, truly know that. And 2 weeks ago, we were at 69. I know, but I hope that you all, know that you mean a great deal to me, dude, and I would do anything on this planet for y'all, and I would never give y'all up. So thank y'all from the bottom of my heart for caring enough about me to come over here and follow me, because that means a lot to me, truly. 69 giggity.
eat it straight, and then rely on their highly acidic guts to break down their rotten meat. And fun fact, this acid is actually about 35% stronger than the stomach acid found in strictly vegetarian bees, which makes a lot of sense, as there really has to be, in order to prevent the rotten flesh from killing the bee outright from food poisoning. And funny enough, just like their namesake, the reason why its stomach is acidic is similar to that of vultures and hyenas, with the vulture bees possessing specific bacteria in their stomachs, which have strong acid production capabilities. And while these guys are feasting, it seems that they're kind of messy eaters, as some of this bacteria is then also transmitted to the storage pots overall, which is thought to be actually helpful, as it serves to help the food goop from spoiling over time and poisoning the entire colony. So clearly, this acid is useful, and its breaking down the rotten concoction inside their stomachs is also the first step into making the star.
Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around, desert you.
By their stomachs is also the first step into making the star of the show. And that would be, of course, the vulture bee's infamous meat honey, as after it's been partially digested, the workers will then internally, meaning inside their bodies, store this newly digested form inside their hypopharyngeal glands, where they then brew this stew into yet another new type of dish, which in normal bees would be their honey. However, given that this brew has used rotten skin, eyeballs, flesh, guts, and organs instead of plant material, what ends up being regurgitated at the final stage is not the honey as we imagine it, but rather again the substance known as meat honey. And shocker, contrary to what the name would have you believe, this stuff isn't really honey. And telling it apart from real honey is, perhaps not surprisingly, quite easy, as almost everything about it is different. For starters, meat honey is much thicker than regular honey, starting off as being completely paste-like, but slowly becoming a viscous fluid over time as it ages and matures. Well, then the color is typically a translucent white, lacking those beautiful shades of amber, gold, and brown that we are so used to. Although I should warn you that in some cases the batch can take on certain shades of yellow, so if someone was hard of sight, and probably smell, then they might confuse it. Yet, even then, if they got some of this stuff in their mouths, like even an infinitesimally small drop, they'd know straight away this wasn't the good old Winnie the Pooh stuff.
I wonder how many people's tried to eat it. You got to be honest with me here. Like, we know there's weirdos in this world that was just like, I just goddamn want to smear that on a cracker, oh, Shun. Just fucking get in there with a spoon, dude, smear a bunch of meat honey on a cracker, eat that shit, and just instantly projectile vomit. I would try it. Oh my God. Is it even edible? Can somebody look that up for me? Like, is meat honey edible? What's up, brother? What's going on, homie? No, would you? Oh, no, hell no, I wouldn't try it. I absolutely would not try it. There's no way on this planet, dude. If somebody was like, hey, this is meat honey. This is just like dead flesh that a bunch of bees regurgitated, put inside of like a honeycomb. Like, I'd be like, you get that shit away from me. Tim definitely would. We'll have to ask him sometime. Yeah, it's edible. Oh, fuck no. Headed home, just had some IHOP. IHOP's good as a bitch. I don't know though. Like, I didn't really care for the breakfast at IHOP though. I like the I think it was chicken tenders that I ate there. It was pretty good. The breakfast itself, I was like, yeah. And I know they're kind of known for like the breakfast, but I don't know, man. I didn't like it. Then again though, I just got like a big ass stack of French toast. I had chicken and waffles. It's edible, non-toxic to humans. There's no way, dude, that I could eat that shit. I feel like it's bitter as hell. Thank y'all for fact checking that, by the way.
As the very few people who questionably have tried this stuff have described the flavor as being extremely intense, salty, but at the same time weirdly sweet. Emphasis on the weird part. And then on top of all of that, very, very smoky. And while smoky, salty, and sweet don't necessarily sound that bad, in this case, they don't pair that well. With
meat honey produced by vulture bees is considered safe for human consumption. It is not inherently toxic or poisonous, and it is edible. However, it is not recommended for consumption because it contains bacteria from rotting meat, tastes pungent or smoky rather than sweet, and is essentially for the bees' survival, or is essential for the bees' survival, as they do not produce a surplus. That sounds horrible, if I'm being honest with you. Pungent? Don't nobody want nothing pungent. I'll be streaming some 7 Days to Die later if you want to check it out. Yeah, if I get off stream, man, and you're still on there, I'll check it out. Yeah, there's no way, dude. I'm not eating no pungent, disgusting, weird honey meat. That shit'll make me feel sick.
Many of the testers stating that meat honey is not for the faint-hearted. And why these bees chose meat honey over regular honey may be quite the questionable decision to some. But ultimately, it's a vital.
I'm setting this multi up, and it keeps wanting to only stream to Twitch. Shaking my head, lol. So there's like it will have a primary output. You'll have to pick one or the other as your primary output that will set it up directly to that one. And then when you add the second output, that's how you get like multi streams. It also comes with ATEM vertical too, by the way. That'll allow you like a vertical stream. You can use that for multiple things. You can either use it for like YouTube Shorts, you can use it for TikTok, you can use it for just a clip farm, you know, if you want to. Worms of the gut, y'all hush before I have Alan ban y'all. You hush right now with that shit. Trying to make somebody feel sick, oh Shun. I don't even see that. I'm lost in the sauce. Damn it, boy. Mac died. I know, Casey. I'm a mod. I know, Bradley. y'all mind your business.
Part of the survival, as this substance is highly calorically dense and rich in protein, and is the main way that colonies feed themselves, with virtually all the larvae being raised upon it.
I'm back again. Where you keep going? Where do you keep flexing to? I'm so confused. Oh, and by the way, we hit 100 followers. Retro came over to kick. Catfish Calhoun came over to kick. Hell yeah. W's to them for helping, by God.
Pretty interesting is that, while its main purpose is food, the vulture bees do like to spice things up from time to time. As in some of the vulture bees, such as Trigona hypogaea, there are reported cases where occasionally, colonies will actually use plant material, such as sweet products, to give a more unique profile to the meat honey, mixing it in with the rest of the batter, so to speak. And strangely, when this happens, they also tend to let the mixture mature for a longer period than normal, which supposedly helps to contribute to an overall more sweet-tasting and deep profile. So clearly these guys are truly nature's gourmet chefs, even if they probably wouldn't win any Michelin stars with me. However, like even the best of chefs, and certainly like me, these bees sometimes get tired of all the effort it takes to make their food, and occasionally are known to opt for quicker ways to obtain sustenance. And one of these ways is another first for bee kind, and not in a good way, as vulture bees, and many other members of Trigona for that matter, are capable of predatory behaviors, something not seen in any other kind of bee. And over the years, researchers have caught these guys preying upon the eggs of frogs. And I don't know about you, but for some reason the idea that bees are the boogeyman to frogs isn't exactly something I'd imagine. But then I guess neither was meat honey. And yet, here we are. And they dispose of these eggs with the same tool they use to consume their goop, which is a pair of remarkably sharp and durable mandibles that can slice and chew simultaneously, and are composed of something called chitin, aka hardened chains of sugar and protein. Now yes, every bee has mandibles, But the vulture bee's unique.
What the fuck was these bees experiencing at one point in history that they had to evolve to make meat honey and to eat baby frogs? What the fuck was the condition and the environment that they was in like that they had to evolve to be able to eat something like that? I'm pretty sure you can get high off their honey. That's disturbing. It said their honey has a salty, sweet, smoky flavor, but it's also pungent, and it's just rotted meat. I don't want nothing to do with that.
In that theirs are relatively sharper and more durable than those seen in most other species. And thus, while they are stingless, they are much more capable of inflicting a painful and damaging bite. And therefore, you wouldn't necessarily have to see this bee to know that it wasn't one of the normies, so to speak. You definitely feel it instead. But whatever the case, their decision to toss the vegetarian diet out the window and dive face first into the realm of the meat eater.
I'll look at it later. I'm about to run and get some Taco Bell, son. Well, hell yeah, oh, son. I hope you enjoy Taco Bell. Taco Bell, one of the best goddamn fast food restaurants to ever exist. And he reached level 1 in the chat. Wow! Squanchy's been following this channel for 1 month, 14 days, 23 hours, and 25 minutes. You can get high off of mad honey, and some people use it to glaze or cure meat. But the term meat honey typically refers to the substance produced by these certain type of bees and is not known to be hallucinogenic.
It seemed to paid off for them massively, as of all the vulture bee species known of currently, not a single one is considered endangered, despite facing the same risk that many other animals and bees have, given that humans do live in its general vicinity, with habitat loss, controlled fires, and pollution all being real threats. And yet, they seem to be doing just fine, with each colony sometimes also having a population of up to 100,000 strong. So it definitely appears that their gamble with questionable culinary choices has ended up paying off. But this all then begs the question as to why did these bees even need to forsake their usual grub in the first place? Well, some researchers believe that it simply comes down to its environment, as one study that analyzed the local habitats of vulture bees found that they often lived in forested areas, where protein sources from plants were surprisingly rare. And thus, this might have forced these guys for many generations to drop their stingers, bulk up their jaws, and make the leap to meat, or rather, fly to meat. And the even more interesting idea speculates that it actually might have come down to that acid-producing bacteria in their guts. Now,
mad honey or deli ball, I don't know if I'm saying that right, in Turkish, is a rare type of honey produced by the Himalayas and Turkey containing, I'm not even going to try to say that word or the next, flowers. It acts as a potent intoxicant and hallucinogen, causing symptoms of hallucinations, dizziness, hypertension, and slow heart rate. It is used in tiny doses for traditional medication, but can cause severe poisoning. The more you know. Why are we fucking with it then? What is the benefits of it? Like, what do they use it for like medication? Like, what's the traditional medicine that it's used for? If it's causing hallucinations, dizziness, hypertension, and whatever the fuck that other one is, like slow heart rate. That's up to you. If you want to look it up, you're more than welcome to. If not, I'll look it up after the stream.
To understand this, you have to understand that it's been known that the microbiome of an animal can actually influence their evolution. And therefore, the idea is that here, they acquired this bacteria in higher volumes, which thus allowed them to then eat something which they normally could not, and ultimately slowly pushing the evolutionary needle just enough that they eventually became what we know them as today. However, I will mention this hypothesis is not as strongly supported, so take it with a grain of salt, or a grain of meat honey. And actually, it's not just their bacteria, mandibles, and lack of stinger that has been a result of their diet, but also their fuzziness, or rather, lack thereof. As it turns out that being fuzzy isn't that efficient for a meat eater's life, or at least in the case of the vulture bees. You see, many bees are fuzzy not to be cute, shocker, I know, but rather because it helps them collect thousands of pollen grains, acting a bit like a Velcro to which the pollen can attach to. But of course, since vulture bees don't really rely on pollen, being fuzzy is therefore not that useful. And perhaps maybe actively problematic if you're always being covered in blood and whatever other goop you might find inside a rotting body. And therefore, instead of spending the energy on developing fuzziness, it can be spent elsewhere, and thus explaining why they're always so clean-shaven. So yeah, truly an enigma among bee kind. And I hope their resilience to humans continues throughout the years, because while I can't say I want to try meat honey personally, I do think the idea of them existing is pretty dang cool, in a weird, horror movie-esque kind of way.
I get where he's coming from when he says he thinks it's cool, but at the same time, though, I think it should stay in a storybook. W Living Zoo! That video was badass. Hell yeah.